This podcast serves Middle Tennessee every weekday morning, and it's made possible by member support. Learn how you can make a difference at WPLN.org/support.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's January 13th, 2026, and on this day in 1979, a concert for the ages took place at Nashville's Memorial Auditorium. The surviving members of the band Lynyrd Skynyrd played a 13-minute-long instrumental version of Free Bird, their emotional public reunion 2 years after the plane crash that killed 5 people, including 2 band members, and seriously injured others on board. Early rock and rockabilly star Carl Perkins was on the bill. So was a young John Prine, the Marshall Tucker Band, Stillwater, the Winters Brothers, and it was the first ever performance of The Devil Went Down to Georgia, played, of course, by the Charlie Daniels Band. Because this was the 5th iteration of what was Charlie Daniels' take on what a next-level performance event could be. The concert/mini festival/jam session known as the Volunteer Jam. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. The very first Volunteer Jam seems to have been a simple idea that just kept growing. In 1974, Daniels got some of his musician friends together to make a live recording with a couple thousand fans in the audience at Nashville's War Memorial Auditorium. The goal was to lay tape for 2 songs. The end result was an epic concert. The name it took on, the Volunteer Jam, seems at first glance like a nod to Tennessee. And it is, partly. But Daniels later said it also just reflected that the guys on stage were the friends of his who volunteered to play with him. His pitch was that he'd record those 2 songs for his upcoming album, and then since the audience that came out ought to have more than 2 songs to enjoy, he'd have some buddies from other bands come out and play just whatever. It'd be fun, and something a little different from a normal concert. Everyone involved would be able to say they'd had a unique experience, whether they were on stage or in the seats. And years later, in an interview, Daniels said he walked off the stage feeling not like, hey, we just did something cool, as much as, oh, that was the start of something. The next year, he pulled together another concert. This time, it was just about the jam session. And this time, it was a lot bigger. Instead of the 2,400-seat War Memorial Auditorium, he booked MTSU's Murphy Center down in Murfreesboro and sold more than 10,000 tickets. Over the years, Daniels put on 16 of what you might call the classic Volunteer Jams. Now, these weren't regular events. They didn't happen every year, although a few times there were jams in back-to-back years. And all just sort of depended on the Charlie Daniels Band's schedule and when a date managed to make sense with enough other artists and booking the right size venue. It was at Municipal Auditorium several times, at TPAC at least once, and a couple of times they were held in other states. At one point, they moved to the now-defunct Starwood Amphitheater. That's where my friends and I learned the hard way that the jams sometimes came together sort of last minute. Kind of late in the 1991 school year, my high school was told that our graduation at Starwood had to be rescheduled because Daniels wanted to throw a volunteer jam there on the same day. As I recall, graduation invitations had been printed already. There was a lot of huffing and puffing amongst teenagers who did not understand that sometimes first dibs only gets you so far. And of course, Starwood was going to prioritize a volunteer jam. For one thing, those shows could sometimes last 10 hours. So from a simple money-making point of view, on top of the ticket sales, think of how many concessions they must have sold. But more importantly, on an artistic level, the shows were pretty epic. The Volunteer Jams had a reputation as a venue for musicians to really show their stuff. They didn't just play their hits in the usual form that fans knew and sang along to. Folks from genres like country that don't often put improvisation or experimentation on display took the opportunity to spin out the kind of long-form jams that otherwise only happened behind closed doors. If you look at Daniels' Wikipedia entry, one of the first things it mentions is the way he fused country with jazz, blues, and rock. And one of the places he really let that fusion idea play out was in the Volunteer Jam. His guests came from a variety of genres, from Billy Joel to James Brown, Ted Nugent to Woody Herman's big band. They came to play off each other and see what could happen. At some point, the Volunteer Jam also developed a philanthropic element. Daniels used it as a fundraiser to help returning military veterans adjust and reintegrate to life back home. In 2014, he founded a nonprofit devoted to that issue called the Journey Home Project. The following year, he staged a jam that raised about $300,000 for the charity. In all, there have been 20 volunteer jams, 16 of what are called the original jams, plus 4 more for special occasions. The last, and most likely final, happened in 2021. It's the only one without Charlie Daniels in the building as either a performer or a guest, because it was an all-star memorial tribute marking the 1-year anniversary of his death. In just a few minutes, some longtime fixtures of Nashville's restaurant scene are closing, but following a new model that continues their community connection right through to the last day. That's coming up after the newscast.
At WPLN, we tell stories about honoring our families.
If he become a monk, that means that mom and dad will go to heaven when they pass away.
And preserving memories.
I never heard of a Rosenwald school. Nobody never told me that's where I went.
I'm Char Daston, and my reporting connects you with your neighbors and the important moments in their lives.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Kids in Tennessee are making academic gains, but many are also struggling with their mental health. WPLN's Camelia Burris dives into a new report about the welfare of the state's youth.
Like much of the country, students in Tennessee took a hit during the pandemic, but research shows signs of an academic rebound, particularly in math. Post-pandemic, kids' scores in the state have improved at a faster rate than the national average. Kids are also performing better on the Tennessee Comprehensive Assessment Program than they did in previous years. However, a report from the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth also shows how families are struggling. Nearly 2/3 of teens suffered a depressive episode last year, but did not get any treatment. And parents with pre-K kids are facing a different issue, rising childcare costs. In 2025, the annual price for childcare for infants was nearly $14,000. For context, that's more expensive than the tuition at the University of Tennessee. Camelia Burris, WPLN News.
A report card on the country's healthiest and unhealthiest states does not look great for Tennessee. The volunteer state ranks near the bottom, the 44th out of 50. That's from the United Health Foundation, a nonprofit created by the health insurance company United Healthcare. Each year, the report gives what it calls a comprehensive portrait of health. It found that for 2025, Tennessee's strengths were a high number of primary care providers and volunteers and low levels of air pollution. But the state fared badly with high rates of premature deaths, low numbers of mental health providers, and low voter participation. The rankings consider safety, educational, and economic factors, the physical environment and activities of residents, access to health care, and the outcomes. Parking giant Metropolis has been overcharging customers and misleading its rates, according to a years-long investigation by the Tennessee Attorney General's office. The private parking company will pay nearly $8.8 million as part of a settlement announced yesterday. That money will go towards refunding customers, court costs, and the creation of a free parking program. Under the new Tennessee parking program, any driver with state plates trying to park in Nashville, Knoxville, or Memphis can be eligible for up to $30 in free parking credits. The program launches this spring and requires a Metropolis membership. Drivers who paid to park at a Metropolis lot between July 1st, 2021 and January 6, 2026 may be eligible for a refund as part of the settlement, but the AG has not yet released details on how to file a claim. Nashville is launching a new task force to improve the health and safety of residents. The 29-member group will be crafting a new community safety plan that will focus on reducing crime through alternatives to policing, and they'll be working with the Metro Public Health Department to consider social determinants of health and how they impact safety. Metro's Director of Health, Dr. Sanmi Areola, explains.
Health is very broad. It is impacted by many factors, including economics, housing, transportation, social services, and education. All of this can also impact safety.
The group's first meeting will be on January 15th. The mayor's office will also hire a specialist on crime prevention and reducing violence to work alongside the task force. The small town of Millersville has been in the news a lot over the last couple of years because of controversial actions by multiple former officials. A number of people were fired and hired amid swirling allegations of incompetence, not having the proper credentials to do their jobs, and furthering debunked conspiracy theories. Now the Tennessean reports the controversy has moved to federal court. In the last year, 4 lawsuits have been filed by former leaders, including the men who were once police chief and city attorney. They're accusing activists, city commissioners, and journalists of defamation, getting in the way of official investigations, and conspiracy to remove them from office. Multiple defendants have filed motions to dismiss, calling the lawsuits baseless. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. This year, some beloved Nashville restaurants are closing their doors for good. But unlike previous closures, these businesses are giving customers plenty of time to say goodbye. WPLN's Mariana Bacallao reports.
When you walk into Fido's in Hillsborough Village these days, you can't miss the giant countdown clock, measuring the time until the coffee shop closes.
It felt good putting that up. As sad as it is, it was sweet.
That's Bob Bernstein, founder and owner of Fido. Below the countdown clock, he's written a letter.
Saying goodbye to the neighborhood, goodbye and thanks.
And Bernstein has given the public the opportunity to write back. A blank book and a pen rest under the display, allowing regulars to share what's made Fido's 30 years in business so special.
Yeah, it's amazing to read some of these people's stories about how they, how they met here, how this was where they hung out while their kid was being operated at Vanderbilt Hospital or whatever. So there's funny, touching stories in there. It's great.
There are still memories to be made before the clock strikes 0. Fido will serve as a wedding venue this year, and come spring, the birthplace of many dissertations. In the past, Bernstein has signed his lease for 10 years at a time, but now he's on a special 3-year lease to give people more time to say goodbye.
And to be honest, I waited to the very last moment to sign that lease because I wasn't sure I wanted to do it.
Bernstein tells me this in the back of the restaurant, where the proverbial sausage and the less metaphorical avocado toast gets made. He says Nashville rent prices have skyrocketed since the last time he signed a lease, and he knew the next one would come with sticker shock.
By that time, I'd been in business for 29 years, and I was older, past 60, and my kids were grown, and do I want to continue to do this?
Bernstein is part of a generation of small business owners that have shaped Nashville's food scene. And as this generation looks to retire, the future is uncertain for new blood looking to take their place.
To start a small business, for somebody to do what I did 30-something years ago would be very difficult today. Somebody with no experience, very little resources, no credit history, no anything. That would be near impossible to do again.
It's a concern shared by other titans of the city's food scene who have their eye on retirement. Across the river in East Nashville, Margot Cafe has a shorter timeline to say goodbye. Its last day is this June, on the 25th anniversary of its first day. Margot McCormick, the titular owner of Margot Cafe, shows me a framed menu from that first night.
It's sort of an interesting time capsule. Look at the prices. Here you can have pasta for $12, and you can have soup for $3, and a salad for $4.
McCormick meets me at the restaurant on her day off, which she puts in air quotes. Even when the cafe isn't open, there's dishes to be washed, orders to be placed, and reservations to be made.
We're never really closed. I was just thinking on my way here that it'll be one of the nice things that I don't have to constantly think, I got to go to the restaurant, I got to do this, for some reason or another.
Like Bernstein, who McCormick calls a friend, she has several reasons for closing now.
Honestly, it's about the property taxes. It's about the credit card fees. It's about the insurance going up 12%. So by the time you get down to the bottom line, there's less and less there all the time.
But it's also just time. McCormick wants to retire after decades in the business.
It's hard on your back, bending over, getting in the oven. It's hard on my arms and my hands. I have to have help using a can opener now and carrying heavy pots where I used to be able to do that all by myself.
Ann McCormick wants the time to say goodbye, something she didn't have when her other restaurant, Marché, was shuttered by the pandemic.
It was just anticlimactic and lackluster for something that had been so great.
Margot Cafe also has a guest book for people to sign, the same guest book from their first day in business.
And so people have been leaving us these amazing notes and their outpouring of love, and so I haven't even gotten to read it because I'll break down in a puddle.
People who have worked at Margot and Fido have gone on to open their own places. In the Nations, a former employee has opened their own coffee shop, Stay Golden, and splitting off the McCormick family tree is City House in Germantown. Retiring from this business is different from most other professions, McCormick says.
People aren't calling up the accountant going, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're retiring. This is awful."
For Bernstein, it's a similar story.
A lot of my friends start this conversation with, "Oh, I'm sorry about Fido," or, "You must be feeling bad or something." But what I'm coming away with is no, sometimes closing a chapter in your life is a good thing.
Fido will be open through June 2028. Margot Cafe closes this summer. Mariana Bacallao, WPLN News.
We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday, so subscribe in your favorite podcasting app to make sure you never miss an episode. And if you like this, you'll probably enjoy the Nashvillager newsletter, too. You'll get perspective from more of my colleagues at Nashville Public Radio and links to the stories we're following. Sign up for those daily emails at WPLN.org/Nashvillager. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.